What would you do if you discovered that the life you had been living was all a lie? The story of Jasmine and Elizabeth Ramos will leave you in shock because no one expected the twist that played out in this story. In this video, we will see every terrifying discovery about the lives of these two sisters. So stay with us till the end because you definitely do not want to miss any single detail of this gist. And yes, there's a lot more where this came from, so be sure to like this video and follow this channel for more stories like this. It all began on December 12th, 1989, when something tragic happened. A young woman's body was discovered in the desert of Mojave County, Arizona. She was stabbed multiple times and left to die. But here's the crazy part. She had been traveling under the name Maria Ortiz, which was an alias she sometimes used, but her real name was Marina Ramos. Even though her death was brutal, the police could not investigate the murder because they had no identity to work on. She had no ID and no fingerprints in the system. So, because of this, the authorities could not identify her. And the worst part, they couldn't trace who killed her or find out why it happened. However, just 2 days later, another tragic event occurred. On December 14th, 1989, miles away from Arizona, a woman was walking through a public park in Oxnard, California, when she heard faint cries coming from a restroom. She decided to investigate, and guess what? When she opened the door, she found two baby girls lying on the cold and wet floor of the restroom. One was about 14 months old and the other about 2 months old. There were no adults around, so Child Protective Services took them in and placed them in foster care. In time, a family in Ventura County adopted them, and they grew up under new names, Jasmine and Elizabeth Ramos. Now, these two incidents seem to be random and unrelated, right? But trust me, there was a connection there that even the authorities did not realize. And you will discover that later. But the truth is, as the years passed, the cases grew colder and were abandoned. Well, back in Arizona, the authorities had officially listed the baby girls as missing. No one had any idea what had happened to them. But one day, the truth started becoming clearer. Because of advances in forensic science and persistent investigators, things changed. Do you know what happened? In 2022, Mojave County investigators decided to take another look at their unidentified murder victims. They submitted fingerprints from the cold case into federal databases. But this time, they got a hit. Guess what? The fingerprints matched the alias, Maria Ortiz, which Marina Ramos used at the time. As a result, this discovery led to her identification. As soon as they confirmed her identity, investigators immediately turned their attention to her missing daughters. Now, do you remember the connection we talked about earlier? This was it. Those girls belonged to the woman who was murdered during her trip. But still, there was an unsolved puzzle in this case. It was a pertinent question that kept nagging at everyone's heads. If Marina was killed in December 1989, what had become of the girls she was last known to be traveling with? Authorities reopened the search and retrieved DNA samples from family members. After some years had passed, the breakthrough came in August 2025. You won't believe what they found. They discovered that a woman living in California had a strong DNA connection to the Ramos family. So investigators reached out to her. The woman with the matching DNA revealed that she had grown up adopted, along with a sister, after being abandoned as a baby in a public restroom in Oxnard in December 1989. Well, the pieces were starting to come together. Her confession confirmed what the investigators already suspected, that she was one of the missing Ramos sisters. And when the authorities searched some more, they located her sister. But do you know what makes this story even more shocking? Both sisters thought their mother had abandoned them. Nothing could have prepared them for the news that she was actually murdered. They lived their whole lives not knowing that both family and friends were searching for them. Can you imagine that it took 36 long years before they could be found? What made it even worse was that their family had to live with the ignorance of not knowing what had become of them. So even though their discovery was such a relief, it was painful, because it raised haunting questions that were already buried in the dust a long time ago. First, who murdered Marina Ramos? Why was she traveling under an alias? Who abandoned the girls in that restroom, and why? How did they even get from Arizona to California? Well, there's a clue that might help us find the answer to these nagging questions. According to witnesses who the officers questioned back in 1989 after the baby girls were found, they saw something strange. They revealed that a Hispanic woman was wearing a long red skirt and white boots, accompanied by two Hispanic men. They moved in a black mini pickup truck that was stationed near the Oxnard restroom. That was the last known sighting tied to the girls. So the truth had been found, but it isn't enough. Investigators are once again asking for the public's help to track down any information about those individuals or the vehicle. For them, their work is far from over. Marina's murder remains unsolved. Although we now know who the victim was and know that her daughters are alive, we still do not yet know who killed her or why. It would bring closure to their family and the sisters to know who murdered their mother and upturned their whole lives. The public cannot wait to see how an advancement in science can help in this search. And I'm sure you cannot wait too. So if you have not already done so, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for this channel so you don't miss a single detail. Leave a comment too about any conspiracy theory you have about this case. We'll be waiting to hear from you.